Everyone, right?
Don't watch that stuff.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks for being here tonight, everyone. All right, we do everyone in attendance tonight, we do have a quorum. I'll go ahead and call for any other business that needs to be added. All right, so we will go ahead and move on. I would entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we.
Okay, let's do it together. I have a second. I'll second. All right.
Look for next.
By Kathy and seconded by Connie. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So we'll go ahead and move on to department reports. Everyone wants to go? Want to go first, you?
Sure. Good evening, Council, Mayor. Chief Valentine and Lockheed, for anybody that doesn't know me. I have prepared your September 2024 report as follows. One abandoned disabled vehicle, 2 agency assists, / public assists, 1 assault, 3 civil problems, 1 drug violation, 1 harassment, 2 information general reports, 1 juvenile problem, 1 minor possession, call, 1 suspicious circumstance, 1 suspicious person vehicle, 10 criminal traffic citations, 11 traffic infractions, 1 traffic other, and 2 warrant arrests. Rounding, we go out to 37 calls for the month of September 2024. We had a little bit of a rough start with dispatch as we had anticipated. We were pulling duplicate numbers, so if we had a call in the city of Toledo, dispatch was also pulling us a call for Winlock, which is not good for either of us because it'll make our dispatch rates go up eventually. So we've addressed that. I think have fixed that problem. Jail billing has also been slightly of issue, but to my knowledge, every single issue has been caught and addressed and fixed. So that goes through my records clerk and the court clerk. So 2 people are kind of looking at the same thing, make sure it makes sense. I don't anticipate that being an issue with them both checking it. Pretty much all I've got for you. Things are going well. Call load's not too much. Yeah,
I'm really impressed by how many vehicles you have
we do have a few.
and your coverage around the city, the downtown part I see. I mean,
Great,
it's awesome.
great.
Second that.
I agree with that. Any other questions?
How many citations are from the stop signs?
I don't know. Well, I think probably a couple.
I think it's hard to remember sometimes.
Yeah.
Here most of your life is like, what?
It was really nice. You had somebody pulled over, I think it was yesterday, or the day before, and that troublemaker black Mustang
Mhm.
was able to see that, so maybe it gave him a data that joy riding around Toledo, maybe it's no longer a thing.
Yeah, so you had probably 40 Ferraris and all that kind of.
Those I don't
Porsches.
mind, it's the guy
They'll
that
get
just
through
goes
to that.
round and round.
Oh, yeah, today I saw them. Do you guys get them?
That.
No,
No.
no,
They were, I mean, they're all pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
I have
Cruiser
an
check.
education question. What's the difference between the criminal traffic infraction and just traffic infraction?
So an infraction is a civil penalty, like a speeding ticket.
Okay.
Criminal infraction would be driving with a suspended license, something like that. A DUI, suspended license, anything that's a criminal violation instead of a civil infraction.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And again, I've had nothing but wonderful things said about having you
Great.
guys here, so.
Great, well, if anything comes up, let us know.
All right, we'll do, thank you.
Next year.
Thank you.
I didn't put together too much of a report. I've been working on the audit a lot. We've had our opening, meeting with them. They're gonna be looking at payroll planning and our finances again, just because of where everything sat last year with our audit. So right now it's a lot of trying to dig through 22 and find things that they want. 23 is obviously pretty easy to find and they're still looking at some of 24, so I've spent a lot of the last 2 weeks working on that. I did provide the quarterly revenue reports, investment activity and expenditures for you guys. So you can see where we sit now that we just closed out the third quarter.
When you do the cash activity, is there a different report that gives the in and the out?
Yes. That's also on the expense too, though.
I guess that-
Other special for City Hall?
Which line items are you keeping an eye on that you're getting close to? Are there any ones that are an issue?
No, not really. I mean, we have a few things that are getting close. We will have to do an amendment in December, but we really underestimated our revenue for 24, so that's a good thing.
More specifically,
We underestimated it.
more
And
specifically,
we got more than we.
we tried to account for inflation on the expense side as a worry, but not look at the inflation on the
Income.
income. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have
So
any
it's-
fund that's in the negative. There's one. Yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing in the negative.
Third quarter report online.
It is, and you can everything online.
There was one thing, and it's minor, but the substance abuse prevention. I was thinking that since this is a public building, should we not have maybe some Narcan on hand? I know they're right next door, but if they come over here to help somebody and then they
You all
have
have
to
to
run
be
back.
certified in how to use
No,
it.
I'm not doing, not finding anybody.
Like, I think the cost for training.
And
Everybody
that's
in the
what- and there's a
office.
liability that goes with that.
Yeah, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, you got EMTs that are
Right next door,
trained
yeah.
and insured right there.
I'm not saying that you would administer it, but if they come over here to help somebody. And we have it on hand, they don't have to run back and get it. It's here.
I don't know what it entails for counting it has to be locked up, like how it needs to be controlled.
I don't think they would issue it to City Hall. They would
Something
issue it to
that-
a police department, but I don't think they would issue it to just City Hall. And the substance abuse thing, that's through the courts, the funds is through the courts. I don't know if that's what you're. It's not money that we get for substance abuse.
Right,
Yeah,
but we're not allocating anything either.
yeah, that's the 631. So that actually just goes right back to Lewis County.
Private purpose trust funds,
Yeah, that's that's the 631 fund, so that money, we basically, it's like a holding account for Lewis County or the state. Like where our tax money comes in, we send that money off to this, from the 631, we send it off to Lewis County. Or the treasurers, and then they take their part of it and send it back to us.
I'm lost as to why that applies to.
Because that's not our money. We literally just take it in and then send it off.
Why that applies to.
I was talking about 106.
Yes.
And
Oh, you
she
said
went
631.
630.
So that's our private purpose.
So I thought it'd be fun.
I don't think she did. You did. You said private purpose.
It's a private purpose
Private
trust
trust
fund, that's our 631. Sherry, that's up to you, I'm not
No,
finding anybody, but if you want to do it, go for it.
Like, I think it doesn't have in the fire station expert, we have somebody we suspect is OD, that would be
I
the
didn't
first
see
thing I
him,
would
it's not
tell
on
them,
there.
is
There's
bring
one
it with
sexy
you,
cat
doesn't hurt
activity, I
that
haven't seen
for them to
that.
bring it and not
Yes.
use it.
Yeah, the private purpose trust fund is the 631. I don't see 106.
106 is your dog.
Yeah.
What's all zero? C?
Yeah.
Alright, we'll move on to Public Works report. Operations were performed without any issues. They attended a one-day class on wastewater topic and took a plant tour of a new MBR plant, which is a membrane bioreactor. Took photos of all of them and Section 5 product samples and submitted them to the analytical lab for drinking water analysis. Picked up sampled and returned final effluent samples for the NPDES permit requirements. They worked with the utility clerk to finish up the meter verification. Has that been finished?
Yep.
Thank you. Worked on and submitted preliminary budget information to the treasurer. Finalized the lead service line inventory and submitted it to the Department of Health. The city of Toledo does not have any lead services in its distribution system. They cleaned drying bed number 1 after a biosolid spill, drained and cleaned digester 2 and began filling it back up. Began preparations on digester 1 for biosolid dewatering and drained and cleaned clarifier 1 for upcoming maintenance. Do we have any questions to go back to wastewater? Public Works?
No, but I'd like to acknowledge, Jay pursuing his certification.
Mhm.
And also ask, is there further certification he needs to do, or?
So yeah, I was gonna speak to that in my part, but yeah, he will, I know he's gonna do the water and then the wastewater separate, and there is gonna be a little bit of delay for one of them, not due to anything on our end, but it has to do with the opposite end and the amount of time it takes to get them scheduled for that testing. So, but he is definitely working on it, they're pushing as hard as they can to get him in as fast, he wants to get it done. So he's been studying and he's like, I'm ready, so.
So as we come up to the water rate change, which makes the overages a lot more expensive, I'm assuming we're gonna have residents who are trying to deal with their water consumption. It's a small number of people, but are you prepared to, like I was talking to a resident who, I think they were reading their bill wrong, but they were worried that they were consuming a lot and have been, but really it hasn't been a problem because it's been basically free. Are we gonna be prepared to like coach? My coach to this resident was, you can go read the meter yourself and start writing down the number and see if, you know, if you're actually using 500 gallons a day, which is what they thought they were using. And so I'm thinking, no, that's Lorraine, yeah. So I think that we're gonna have to be prepared for that, and I know that's gonna be a Public Works and front office thing.
So we have been dealing with that so far. We didn't send all those letters out at once. We sent like 50 every couple days. And so that way we're not getting like a flood of people in the office. And so people have called, and then we kind of showed them, it says how much usage is on the bill. So, some people were just printing out the bill and showing them like, this is your usage. I think Carly downloaded a full report for someone today that showed all their usage. So it'll be a little bit of a, you know, dealing with people, but it hasn't been bad so far.
Okay, great.
And further questions for him? All right. So we'll go ahead and move on to council reports. So I just was out at the Mayor's Exchange, brought back quite a bit of good information, just from my knowledge on why things were. Learned a lot from talking to other mayors of the smaller municipalities. I thought we're trying to be the smallest there, but there was one that was like 207 people. And obviously, even the headaches that we're seeing now are not like it's across the board. It's not even just like Kent was having issues, like it's not just the small towns. The state auditor was there, so it was great to hear a lot of what they had to say, things to watch for, things to do, which, and especially with us being in the audit, it was kind of good to hear. We took a walking tour of downtown Ellensburg, which was great. All the old historic buildings, they were talking about the different ways that they have encouraged the owners of those buildings to kind of bring them up to code, and ways to repurpose them. So most of their downtown buildings that are older, they're using the whole bottom floor as just their retail spaces. And then upstairs is all living quarters. And then they're doing facelifts to the outside, but they're keeping them all, they're required to keep them all looking old. Like their entire downtown, they're keeping that way. And they did just use, they had used their ARPA money to put in a big park to house their farmer's market. They've got a dog park in there. And it's like, I don't know, like maybe a third of a block. So, yeah, it was interesting to see the things that they had done. And I know they obviously have a way bigger budget, obviously, they've got the college there, so. But it was good to talk with them all and kind of get a feel for how everybody else is handling things. And it was mostly just, I think the vast majority of them were all mayors that have been in office less than a year, so. And then the other thing I had to note is that after some arm twisting, I did get a hold of the county, and let them know that we will no longer be doing their testing for us at this point. If they choose that down the road, they would like to pay for our services, then that's something that I told them we can renegotiate at that point, but for right now, we will not be doing the testing over at South County Park. They've got somebody living there that they said will be able to handle it, so he said, okay, that gets that off of our plate, and it's less time and on our equipment and our guys.
Well done.
I had to not be nice to do it, but that's okay. Any questions?
You were gonna talk about, Jay and,
Oh, sorry, yes. So I did go down and sit with wastewater, and I believe it was Wednesday, Wednesday. I was down there with them for a while, down at Public Works, and, we had a lot of good discussions, a lot about the upcoming year and what they're gonna be doing as far as maintenance. They're gonna be hitting the ground running on maintenance on all the equipment to try and get it all up to code. I said, I wanna make sure that we're not gonna be facing any catastrophic issues like we had before. So they are gonna be pushing on that. I know that Jay was really gung ho and very excited to be able to get to the point where he can take his tests. So he's chomping at the bit to get that done. I think he's got one coming up, I think within the next month or so, and then they were hoping the other one maybe by the end of the year, but it sounds like it may be a little further out than that before she can get him scheduled. So very excited to have him get his tests done so he can continue to move forward and grow. We did discuss a little bit about their part-time person. I know that had kind of been brought up before. And so they may be looking to bring somebody in for just a few months at 3 days a week. Like I told them, I said, with wages and stuff, we'll do, but I'm like, we need to look well in advance. We can't just wait till the last minute to say, hey, let's try and find somebody now, because we're gonna be stuck in that pattern where you don't get somebody in until 3 months into your 6 months when you need them, because you want them for the summer or the spring and summer. So they will be letting me know about that in the very near future so we can start looking for that. Other than that, it was a good discussion with them. They were very open. The office is actually a lot cleaner down there than it was before. I'm like, having seen it when I first came on board and seeing it the other day, I was like, this is nice. Counter space. And I did tell them I wanted them to start thinking about putting together a wish list for big ticket items, that not necessarily this, budget or even next budget, but it's like, hey, we may need this in 4 years. We need to know what, with inflation, what our cost looks like in 4 years, so we can start banking money now and have it there for you when you need it. So they're gonna start looking at some of the big ticket items that they may need or may want that we can start preparing for. And other than that, I think that was pretty much everything that I had with them.
so Jamie, to get to your question, so that's a wastewater, he has to have 480 hours, Jay has to have 480 hours before he can test for wastewater 1, and then after that, it's a substantial amount of time before you can test for wastewater 2, so measured in a couple of years, I think, like 3 years. So there is, and then same thing for water.
And don't they have annual training that they have to do too?
Yeah, they do. And I know that we kind of talked about where they were in training, and I know even John said that he's been doing online courses as well and stuff, so he's up to date on his stuff as well. So they're keeping up on their CE to keep their certificates. More questions?
Progress.
I'm gonna come in on their, now what's the word, inventory.
I don't think they've started.
Honestly, I haven't talked to him about that. I probably should. Thank you for. I will chat with him this week. Alright. So we will go ahead and move on. Do you have anything for us tonight?
We did get an email from emergency management about the upcoming flood meeting. Are you planning on going to that, Jamie?
I can't get in my email, so tell me about it.
I'll tell you what day, Joe, what day is South County Chamber meeting this month? Whatever that is, because the South County Chamber meeting is the same time. It's at noon and then this is at 1 at the county building.
In jail.
In jails at the courthouse, down in the basement.
Okay.
So I may only be able to dash to the South County to run to the flood meeting, so. That's coming up, so we'll see what that entails. But we are scheduled for. Thanks, sir.
Report.
Yes, so I did an urban reserve meeting with Todd with the county. I'll let him talk about that. Spent some time with the auditors in the onboarding meeting and in an interview that they wanted to do. And then a little time looking at the budget. That's it.
Just looking at all the paperwork that came in the packet this week. Otherwise, nothing.
And I put updated expenses on your.
I saw it. Thank you.
Ditto.
Thanks.
And studying.
The
that.
map.
Well, this being the election season, I was thinking we all take an oath of office when we.
Can't hear you.
We all take an oath of office when we join. Police officer takes an oath of office. All our elected officials take oaths of office. And so that got me to thinking. I looked up the oath that new citizens take. We also do the Pledge of Allegiance, but new citizens, when they take their oath of office, they have to pledge to protect against enemies, foreign and domestic. And I thought that was interesting that people that are born here never take that oath, and maybe that would be a good thing. Something I would never have thought about. And election is coming up. Please register to vote and please vote.
Here.
All right, so we will go ahead and move on to committee reports. Anything to report from planning?
Planning meeting next week should finalize our concept of the rezoning of the downtown and urban growth areas. We've had quite a bit of discussion, and Todd will go over that tonight with regards to the urban reserve and his conversations with the county, so that's about all.
Thank you. And then I know don't have anybody from Park Board, so we'll skip on the Park Board tonight. And then I know a little bit further down, we'll be discussing campsites at Camp Olson. No public hearing tonight, no special presentations. Is there any public comment on our agenda items? All right, so we'll go ahead and move right on into new business. First order of business, Mayor Pro Tem nomination and vote.
I'll make a motion to nominate what's her name on the end of the table?
Jamie Scalise.
Jamie Scalise.
Really committed.
Just said, well, that's great.
Oh, there's a
moments.
supporter.
I'll second that one.
Well, I'd like to nominate Rebecca.
And I respectfully decline the nomination.
Do you have any other nominations? All
Tony,
right,
would you accept the nomination?
As I am just in my second meeting altogether.
Want your feet wetter yet?
A little wetter first, and then I would entertain it.
Don't take that.
You guys are.
all right. So the motion on the table is that, we have got Jamie up for the mayor pro tem. And then Kathy seconded, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it was moved by Rebecca and seconded by Kathy. Is there any more discussion on it?
I was gonna nominate you, but I figured it was too soon.
All those in favor?
I.
I,
I was gonna say, if I get no votes, I mean, now
Aye.
I'm really gonna be pissed. You pushed me into it and you didn't vote for me.
Yep. All right.
congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
Congratulations, Jamie.
Thank you.
Does she get to take another oath?
No.
All right, the second order of new business is the preliminary budget. I know everybody has had a chance to take a look.
Before we completely move on, this is gonna, did it say something, it said somewhere in here, this is gonna happen in all three bodies that we have, right? So we're doing the park board and the planning commission as well. Which is what I recommended last workshop for their equivalent for the chair.
Oh,
position.
yes,
Since the mayor pro tem is kind of the chair position.
yes, I know that will be something we'll be discussing tomorrow too.
Great.
And I do have I have a question out to the MRSC in regards to the head of one of those committees. So,
Okay, excellent.
yeah, absolutely. All right, so discussions on the preliminary budget.
Where do you want us to start?
Okay.
Since we last talked, I did look and that biosolids disposal budget item is duplicated.
Okay.
So that's nice. That's $10,000 that will be reduced. And that is the ending in 80-40-6.
Okay.
I'm talking about the biosolid fee, it's $10,000 fee. It was, if you see XX on one of these titles, then that means it needs to be going away. And it looks like at least when this got submitted for the council packet, it was all of the bars numbers, including those that are
Older ones.
obsolete.
So, yeah,
Can
this
you,
is-
when you call it out, can you give us?
That's ending in 80-40-06. So it's it's a 4,401. I can't give you a page number. I can give you a page number on the expenses. Does that help?
Well, if you give us the account number to start with, that gets us in the right place.
401, whole bunch of zeros, 535 80-40-06. And you will find that on or around 13 or 14. Let's see.
Is it the new set? The updated set?
That's the same account number for the new.
It's on page 13. Yeah, towards the bottom on page 13, it's XX biosolid disposal.
Got it.
And it actually tells you to use the other one. That would be a note that I left last year, and apparently it says 47 instead of 40.
So this one.
Oh, it is 47.
So that,
Yeah,
So that one is going away, and then I see that you have $5,000 on the one above it, the chlorine / equipment repair maintenance.
yeah, and I don't know why that's in there.
I know you were talking to John about wanting
He
to
wanted to,
have an extra.
yeah. And so I think that was just like a placeholder.
Okay, we just have to make sure we count up all the various maintenance budget
Mhm.
blocks.
So is that why there was a double X?
Yeah,
Well, yeah, because it hadn't been used since 2017.
So
We
it's,
don't do chlorine in our, and so if it's a 535 account, just so, or for some refreshers for you. That number that's the fourth set, 535, that means it's sewer related, and 534 means it's water related. So this is sewer related chlorine, and we don't chlorinate sewer water. We don't have a need for it.
so some of these lines should be struck,
Well, that one will be struck,
the chlorine.
the chlorine
That-
one and
yeah, that-
534.
that XX chlorine equipment. If, I know that he wanted to separate out what large equipment versus small equipment. And you definitely have to have a water equipment separated from sewer equipment.
And it's in there.
So you end up having, yeah, a handful of repair items. And I think that we need to have another workshop. So if
I
you
can
want
do
to
one
do that
Monday.
if you want to do that at the next meeting, or would you want it sooner? Because we are, I know your calendar is.
Yeah, we should do it
involved.
Monday, because we're, the next first meeting in November is gonna be the public hearing for budget.
So this coming Monday, but workshop.
Would be this coming Monday, the 14th.
I'm fine. Whatever.
The earlier the better. You guys do 4 o'clock.
Thank you.
4 o'clock's good. I got a Tuesday committee at 6:30, so 4 o'clock.
That works for me.
What's that date?
The 14th.
Thank you.
More notes for the budget?
So do you have, like a bars, your bars code cheat sheets of what these?
There's no cheat sheet, but it's the,
Detailed codes are for like the 430 or 534 versus 535. Just kind of a basic outline.
well, it's
for
in the
people to learn what they
expense. You
are.
can kind of see in the expense, it'll say, you know,
And you can follow up the headings and the
yeah,
subheadings, so that, and that's actually how we ended up. The bars documentation is. You'd have to have a PhD in bars numbers.
Oh, I know.
And then still not
I do
understand.
know.
But as a software engineer, I kind of understood that our software package knows what they all are. And we don't have a way to ask it, but you can put in a bars number and and see what header it went in, which is how I discovered some of them
And you're doing that where?
in the software package.
Which software?
In the Visions is what we use, Vision.
So come down here to.
Well, so if you,
Yeah.
but no, but so you can see that, so like. Just example, if I go to the bottom of page 15, you can see it's expenditures.
Expenditures, right?
Yeah, and so it's water, so you're in water sewer,
Water
and
and
these are
sewer.
the expenditures, and so you know that this 5100 is gonna be an expenditure, and then the next one being debt servicing is. Got its own numbers, so I make use of these headers and subheaders to understand what the general topic we are. I know it's
It's a learning
It's-
curve for
The,
sure.
well, the problem with this one is sewer is on the very last line of this page. And then the sewer
Line
subtitles are here. So you have to really look hard. if you
And so to help with that, yeah, so
we can
there.
make it bigger too,
Some of
but
the things I've done to try to help remember those is if it's a public works and it ends in S, it's sewer, and it ends in W, it's water. So I've tried to kind of encode some of that knowledge that's impossible to get any other way.
Okay.
And so that if if we were just to look at that biosolid fee, it's fee is the first word, so it's a fee. So, and then what it's for, and then what department it is, and then if there's a percentage afterward, that is the percent that it's sharing with somebody else. So fuel for the public works truck, sewer pays for 37.5%. You'll find one of those in water, and you'll probably find one of those in streets.
I see, okay. All right,
more for budget for today prior to the workshop on Monday?
No, my brain.
And I did ask, and so she's already taken care of it. I did ask Rachel to switch to this, this estimated expenditure like she did with the estimated, because it gives you 23's budget actual, 24's budget actual, and then 25's budget. So it gives you some context.
Yeah,
to
that
work
stuff
on.
was all in, just down further,
Oh, did I? Okay.
yeah. Those were more my notes, because I was gonna put something together on how I came up with these numbers, but we were trying to get it out, and so I just downloaded my notes,
Okay,
but all that stuff was in there, should have
okay,
been.
great. We're done with the extra.
It would have been in my council reports, I think.
Yeah, that's where that's where I looked. I thought it was the different one. Yeah. Different reports that, so it
Yep,
was
it's
in
in
here.
Oh, yeah, it's in.
It's in that one.
Yeah,
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of the CSVs that I
Yeah.
asked for, okay. Yeah,
Right
it's
there.
58 pages of fun.
yes.
Oh, those are, oh, so then there's another trick. That again, that fourth set of numbers, if it's a 5, that's an expense. If it's a 3, it's a revenue. So if you just kind of see a random bars number, things you can tell right off the bat is 401, the 401 is water sewer. The next of them are special case things, and then that fourth set of numbers is you're gonna know whether it's an expense or a revenue, and then the last set is just details.
These ones I'm familiar with, I just don't know
Yeah.
guys' account numbers, that's all.
All right, so we will go ahead and move on to the Lewis County Public Works ILA. And this is the one that will be expiring at the end of this year. This is the same one that we're just basically renewing the old one that we had, correct?
Yeah, this would have saved us for that whole Spencer's issue. That's the kind of stuff that they'll do. That way we're not really pilling the prevailing wage, and they can come in and do all of this stuff for us. I know they did some work at the beginning of 23 for us. They did some chip sealing and some asphalt stuff.
It would entertain a motion.
I will move that we accept the master interlocal agreement between us and Lewis County.
I'll second that.
And moved by Rebecca and seconded by Aaron, and move into discussion.
Yeah, so, is there a fee besides getting bids out and asking for a quote on it? Is there a fee to be a part of this ILA?
No. And this is gonna be the easiest way to do a lot of the work. Since we have the ILA, we're not held to do a lot of the same procurement hoops that we have to jump through. If we're gonna use an outside company, we can go straight to them and they can do the work for us.
Okay, and we know how it went with the one where we got the grant, and we pretty much got the shaft from the ground. So who's going to oversee the satisfactory completion of projects?
It would probably be in Public Works. It covers mainly, your streets and stuff.
I think this is very different. That grant was being overseen by one of the.
You're talking about the TIB for master plan?
Yeah,
Right, but we still should have had somebody in town watching over it and complaining if it wasn't going right.
And I think again, with it being, if you look at what it's mainly covering, most of that is gonna be stuff that has to do with our streets and Public Works. I think having that whoever is in charge of Public Works would be the one that would go out and say, hey, this is an issue.
So you had one of these in place before?
Yeah, the
It's
one.
the renewal.
Yeah, it's a,
It's a renewal.
yeah.
Yeah, if you look at this, this is actually the old one.
And I also was a little confused as to why the top portion of the first page was not completed on the one that was signed prior.
Before my time.
I think it's a good reminder that we have this, because, yeah,
Yeah.
for that repair, it would have been much nicer to.
A whole lot.
Any more discussion on this? Go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. We'll go ahead and move on to our unfinished business. First up on the unfinished business is ordinance 807, an ordinance of this is the second reading of ordinance 807, an ordinance of the city of Toledo, Washington, amending section 6-2-10 of Toledo Municipal Code, amending sections of ordinance number 802 as necessary, classifying nuisance violations as civil infractions and providing observability and establishing an effective date.
I'll make a motion to accept ordinance number 807.
I'll second it.
All right, and moved by Rebecca and seconded by Jamie. Any discussion? All right.
Is this gonna be the last time we update this?
Yes. Hopefully, maybe.
You said that out loud.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, carries. We will go ahead and move on to ordinance number 808, second reading. An ordinance of the city of Toledo, Washington, amending sections of Toledo Municipal Code, chapter 7-1-2. Amending sections of ordinance number 804 as necessary, classifying violations as civil infractions and providing preservability and establishing an effective date.
I'll make a motion, we accept ordinance 809.
I'll second that.
808.
That was 808.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at
808.
808.
All right. It is. Motion was made by Eric and seconded by Kathy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Okay. Move on to the next one. Second reading of ordinance number 809, an ordinance of the city of Toledo, Washington, amending sections of Toledo Municipal Code, chapter 6-3, amending sections of ordinance number 803 as necessary, classifying violations as civil infractions and providing preservability and establishing an effective date.
My motion, we accept ordinance 809.
I'll second. Tanya.
It's been moved by Jamie and seconded by Tanya. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Next up is the ILA for the 911 governance and tax.
So for this, yeah, so for this one, this is not. They're just looking for your questions, comments, concerns on this. She did say that there was an error with the formatting. So section where it says section 25 there, she said, just ignore that. There is a meeting in a couple, I think it's 2 weeks from now. And they're taking everyone's questions, comments, anything like that, and they're gonna come up with a formal contract. So this is more just for your review, and for us to get back to them with any.
Okay, well, there is no section 17.
Correct.
And is there supposed to be, or is it a different number?
No, she just, I mean, did you read through all of it? It should all be there. She said that there's some formatting issues that are off. So it might say section 17, but the information should be in there. Right,
Labeled
and we're
under
not voting on
section
this,
number.
we're not
It goes from-
passing anything. This is just for,
It goes from 11 to 24.
right, they're aware of that, yeah.
Okay, my question is, what representation does Toledo have? Because I see nothing in here that Toledo is actually represented in this board. We have no say for anything.
Well, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for your concerns, your comments. They're looking for us to come bring anything that we have for them.
So who's going to bring that to them?
I plan to go to the meeting. I don't know if Sherry was planning on going to. This is just for them to come out with the formal contract. The contract will come in front of you guys when it's ready, and then.
So
You guys
one of
can
you
vote
has a
on it.
note of her concern then, or she should email you or?
Right, yeah, you guys can email me any concerns, any questions, anything you'd like to see added.
What's,
Or taken away.
what's the cost going to annualize out for this year for this? It's gone astronomical.
No, it's not for us. For the dispatch, I think it dropped to like 16 grand a year.
But is Lewis County 911 not the one that went from
Not for us, it didn't.
biannual to
That's
the
what I-
one that's like $7,500 a quarter now instead of
It is,
$7,500
it's the
a
same
half?
thing, but they've dropped, our rates have dropped, I think I have it right here.
Yeah, they did drop
Is-
this to
is-
our call volume
but
being
this-
less than, I wonder what that would.
But
look like.
this is the same as dispatch? This is not dispatch. Right, because we also have a dispatch. Which I would make sense would drop.
So you're talking about emergency services administration?
I don't have it there.
I know,
It went down, yeah. Again, so this is more of an informational thing. If you guys have anything that you want me to take to them, let me know.
So I guess I'd like a clarification. Do we have two separate 911 agreements?
About the contract services for?
We have the Lewis County 911. And what's the other one that's on there? I forget how it's worded.
There's a contract services Billman, but
That's not it.
that's not it. So yeah, the service contract Lewis County 911 dispatch is what
That's
that.
it.
I thought there was a second, but you can see that we didn't budget near enough because it just it outright dumped it from last year. Or from 23.
Well,
Right, but it goes down this year.
isn't there a communications thing too?
There's the communications, that's separate. Yeah, I think the communications is like 1,400 a quarter.
And that's so you can talk amongst yourselves.
That I'm not sure what the communications is. I could pull out the invoice.
No, she's correct.
Is it?
It's the radio.
Oh, okay,
Between officers
okay.
and dispatch.
But yeah, I guess after reading through it, if you have any questions, any concerns, any feedback that needs to go back to, you would like to see added or removed. Please try to get those over to Rachel by in the next week.
Other than Holy Cow, you doubled the cost.
But they didn't double it for us. Ours is dropping to like 16 grand for
They
next
did
year.
this year.
Yeah, this year's.
Yeah.
With no warning. It's like, yeah.
Loose,
So, over a year ago, when we
And I did want to kind of, it goes off in the, under the tree area. There's nothing back there at all whatsoever. We did bring the roller. And so it's a total of 6 rides. My other thing was, is then I drove around and I noticed there is a very large open area down here, and it would be a lot more convenient if 2 of the dry sites were over here, closer to where the other tent site is. It's up under the trees, but I won't have to have gravel and a driveway, just the little parking spaces. And that's also level, and underneath all of those trees would be suitable for, and it would be closer for anybody needing to use the bathroom or get water or any of those things. So,
By the horseshoes?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, on this side right in
Oh,
here,
okay.
yeah. So we 2 there and then 4 over here, and that would save us a lot of money. It's not, you don't save you money, but it's coming out of the grant funds is where it would come from. And so it'd be a lot less gravel and, yeah.
Makes sense.
Is that gonna be the northern floor that you said, is that gonna be a good spot? It's kind of up near, is it still in the woods, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it's under the tree.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's in that upper parcel.
Yeah.
So it's
not down in the soup
completely
pit.
up against the, completely up against the baseball diamond.
oh,
No,
no. Yeah, it doesn't really show on this,
Yeah,
that it
I'm trying to
goes up
look at it.
farther, yeah,
And Joe, does each spot account for a parking spot as well?
yeah. Yeah, so it'll be gravel just for that parking area.
I have a question. I'm really good to know, because I see a lot of dead trees.
Down the big trees at the far end closest to the elementary school. That was, I don't remember how many years ago now.
All the other ones are under trees as well already.
That's why we've been spending money on this.
Tree maintenance.
Yeah, and then he comes out and he actually will say this one's a problem, that one's a problem, and this one's a risk. So he's letting us know which ones need to come down. He also suggested planting more trees.
Right, and I brought those for the city, that's help anything. So it'll be cedars and maples, which is what's in there now.
They would entertain a motion on this.
I would make a motion that 6 new dry campsites be added, 4 at the northern end and 2 across from the horseshoe area. 4 and 2.
Yeah, the orange, yeah.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved by Kathy and seconded by Rebecca. Do we have more discussion? All right, okay. All those in favor?
I,
You did see that we have to have everything in by January, okay, all of our receipts.
Yes, yes, I'm just waiting on the 25. They were supposed to have, a decision in June, but they opted not to do that. Extended that distance, to get more. So I'm kind of waiting on that. With the stuff, but we're ready for it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Business, Lewis County proposed urban reserve area discussion.
Right. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. The colorful map in front of you is the best way to summarize this discussion. You can see that portions of that colored map have black cross hatching across it. And there are some other portions that don't. So as we're working through our 20, it'll be the 2025 to 2045 comprehensive plan update. So we do a 20-year comp plan update, and this is a state mandated process. and we're working through that. We've done, and I've brought back to council a couple of times before, different pieces of that. We've done population projections, we've done some housing needs, to show what types of houses are needed to house the population. In with the population projection, there's a jobs, allocation to show how many jobs we'll need to keep future residents employed in the community. And for that, we need land. So when we look at the land supply that we don't have enough in the city limits and inside of the existing urban growth area. An urban growth area is a reserve area outside of a city, but it's actually one that's planned for by the city and designated by the city to provide for jobs and housing at a certain level of density. So in an urban growth area, you do a lot of planning for that area up front because that's the area that you're planning to grow into. As we're working through this process now with Lewis County, we had proposed the colors on the map that go out basically from Waumonden, kind of out along is it 505 out to the I-5 junction. All of those properties we had proposed to be designated into our urban growth area. The county has expressed some concern about that because of the level of analysis needed to do that large of a UGA expansion. When you're expanding an urban growth boundary and planning for future growth, you're not only planning for the homes and the jobs and all the other things that are going out there, but you also have to look at transportation and water and sewers. And then you also have to look at the environmental impact of doing that. So you have to look at all of the streams, all of the slopes and steep slopes and geohazards. All the critical areas that are within those areas, and you somehow have to figure out, okay, well, if we develop into those areas, here's how we're going to minimize our impact. So in order to quantify all those, it takes studies and time. And the county was getting concerned because they hadn't seen those studies come out of the city yet, that we might not have time to do this before their June deadline. We have until the end of next year to adopt a new comprehensive plan by state law. The county is targeting the June deadline because that's when the grant funds run out. And we're targeting that too, but I guess I felt like we could move quickly and do analysis if we wanted to. But then there's been some concern about the budget that it costs to do all that analysis. You know, that analysis is very expensive and it's not in the current budget. The current budget was based on a more modest urban growth boundary expansion, and this one is significantly more. So all of that together, the county said, hey, how about if we designate an urban reserve area? An urban reserve is a less defined tool that just says by the county, this is where we think Toledo will grow in the future. So instead of the city doing all the planning and the heavy lifting and saying this is where we're growing and this is what we're going to do over this 20-year planning period, instead the county is saying this is an area we think you're going to need and we're just going to set it aside for you. We're going to put this zoning designation over it, which is basically it's a holding zone. So basically it says that you can't do any urban level development in this area until such time as you come into the city. And that's what the urban reserve areas say. The policies on that aren't written at the county yet, but they've asked us if we would accept that in place of a large urban growth boundary expansion that may cause both the city and the county a significant amount of environmental review through this process. They've vowed to allow us to come back and reanalyze that in as short as 2 years, or we can take longer if we want. So we could look at that, and with the urban reserve area designation, they've said, yeah, 2 years down the road, if you're running out of property to develop, which based on our projections, based on historic growth and the trends that we all did with our population projections, we're going to run out of land. So the county's addressed that concern by saying, yeah, you can come back as early as, if we adopt this in 25, you can come back as early as 27 and expand your boundaries because we'll have new growth numbers from the state. Those will support that. And maybe by then we'll be more ready to do some of that environmental analysis. And then we can continue to to expand our urban growth areas every year or two after that, however we see fit. So we can grow into this area without studying all of it now. The planning commission's been working quite a bit on all of this. And they've been working mainly focused in the downtown area and zoning, and we've made some good progress there. And that will come back in front of you all before you all will adopt it as part of the package. That wasn't the topic of this meeting, so I left it off of this map. If you're curious about that, we do have maps that kind of show what the planning commission is talking about there. They're in all the planning commission packets, most recently, so the easiest way to find them. Planning commission did look at this because we had talked about this urban growth area and the area where to expand growth. They had feedback on a couple of different specific areas. The area on the south side of Plumonden that you can see does not have a color designated by the city, but does have a crosshatch designated by the county. That's an area where the county is saying they'd like to include that area in an urban reserve designation. But the city hadn't planned on growing our urban growth area in that spot because the thinking was that many of those property owners just flat out weren't interested in coming into the city anytime soon, so there was no need to plan for them. I talked to planning commission about that. Planning commission felt like, well, it's really the county's designating them with this urban reserve. We're not really designating them as anything, and if we never end up annexing them, we don't have to do any planning work or anything for an urban reserve area, so what does it hurt to stay in? If that way, if they did want to change their mind in the future and come in, they still could. They're part of the urban reserve area that's been designated. But if they don't, then this doesn't really impact them negatively. It will limit their development opportunities in the future because it does kind of restrict a high level of urban growth, but it won't restrict what they're doing out there today, being in an urban reserve area. The other area that we talked about was the area, my goodness, I think that's probably a purple or a blue. That's on the north side of Plumonden. And just out past the end of Twin Peaks. There's 5 parcels there that are not hatched.
Right.
The planning commission was asking, well, why didn't the county put those in? So in a meeting last week that I have ongoing meetings with the county now as we're going through this process, and the mayor and Councilor Hayes both attend those off and on with me, as does Chair Birch. In that meeting, I asked that question and they said, well, we can change that if you want. So they don't seem to be really against adding those parcels in. So I think that we could request to add those parcels in and the county would be willing to do that. The other parcels that we talked about were the parcels that are in pink up on the very top of the map. Those are the ones that don't have the hatching on them, so they're not proposed to be in the county's urban reserve area, but they were previously thought of to be proposed as part of the city's urban growth area. I believe that those properties may have had an individual landowner that expressed an interest in developing. The planning commission was not really pro or against adding those in. They kind of were neutral on, you know, they are kind of a long way out. It's going to be a while before we get urban services out there. But they weren't against it either, but they didn't give me a good, clear recommendation on, yeah, we got to ask the county for those like they did the 5 of them down in the corner. And then those purple ones that are closer out toward I-5 that don't have the hatching over them, those are pretty heavily constrained by environmental conditions. So I think the planning commission was just flat out okay with leaving those out. I know Chair Birch is here, so
Yeah.
misspoke on any of those issues.
You did not misspeak.
Okay, thank you.
So the larger area here all along Camas Road,
Yes. We actually,
That place,
I like that.
we
that
use
has the
that.
hatching over it.
And
Yes.
That is an area as part of the urban reserve and proposed to be designated by the city.
And I used the delay that they were not wanting to expand now
Mhm.
to increase that to all of Camas Road, because that's gonna be our frontage road with the car dealership and, you know, whatever else, a fast food or whatever else brings us good revenue.
So, I'm not asking for a decision tonight. We're way premature on that, but I do need some direction. I got some from planning commission, so I was able to evolve my conversations, my ongoing conversations with Lewis County. Lewis County has been a great partner in this. They're committed to working with us and they want to be accommodating. They just don't want to see a big urban growth boundary expansion derail their process with a whole bunch of expensive environmental analysis that may cause appeals and other time consuming things. I did ask, I said, well, you know, even though it would have no regulatory meaning, is it okay if the city still continues to plan conceptually for that? You know, maybe we don't do the environmental analysis, but maybe we could still show jobs and employment in that area, and they were fine with that. They said, as long as you're not asking us to adopt that, then we're okay. So they're, like I said, they're being great partners in this process, and they're very much willing to work with us. I do think this is a workable solution because, I guess mainly because of the same reason the county is concerned about it, budget and time. It's very expensive and time consuming to do the analysis that's needed. I think we could get it done, but it would cost a significant amount of money. I mean, this is $60,000 to $80,000 worth of
Todd,
work.
one other thing, could you add in there a brief discussion on the fact that the county would allow us to isolate certain segments up north that are separated from our city limits?
That would be part of the policy discussions, and we're working through those.
And its relationship to, let's say, what Win Richfield did and how they use that.
Yeah, so that is something that we did talk about at Planning Commission, is the idea that this stuff may not happen sequentially. And urban growth by state law is supposed to happen sequentially, but now because we're in an urban reserve area and all of that has been thought of as being urban reserve, the county has some flexibility to allow us to then grab pieces. Although in order to annex, it would still have to be contiguous. But if a developer wanted to come in and build something out there and we had an adopted plan, but just hadn't done the environmental work, then the developer then could do the environmental work needed, do the planning work that we didn't do, and then it could be extended into the urban growth area. So we could do that kind of as it goes. The county, like I said, hasn't worked through the policy level, and we'll need to work with them to make sure that that's illustrated. We've also asked them, usually urban reserve areas aren't designated for a community, they're just urban reserve. So whatever community gets there first, we have an urban reserve area out there now, but it's not Toledo's urban reserve, it's just that. And we've asked them, well, can we put some policy language in there about this urban reserve area? And they were agreeable to considering that too. So I think working with them on this solution, it's not a horrible solution for the city. It doesn't get you exactly what you wanted with the urban growth planning, but it's a good compromise, in my opinion, so.
There's a color that ends up being turquoise that's not defined.
Color that's turquoise, it's not.
The outline.
Oh, that one just has the, that must have actually been a parcel I had selected when I was actually doing the map. So that's just the outline of a parcel that's selected. Yeah, you might see that blue shading.
This.
Yeah, that has no, that's not a criteria for the map or anything special, but you're right, there is that.
So that-
is outline there.
Yeah, it is a weird one.
I must have been looking at different things while I was.
So that's, but the green inside that is the residential high density,
Medium.
Medium density.
medium
yeah.
density. Yeah, okay.
So the green is the legend, the outline.
So it's just bleeding into something. Okay,
That outline is just because I had selected the parcels as I was printing the map.
okay.
So if they reserve it for us, can they also bump us from it?
Yes. Well, I guess maybe I should have prefaced that as I did with planning commission. So the county is responsible for urban growth planning. The county sets your urban growth area. The city can adopt by policy whatever the city wants to, but it has no regulatory teeth. The county says, this is your urban growth area. So at the end of the day, from a regulatory standpoint, we don't really have a choice. The county has the authority to set our urban growth area as they see fit to, you know, and we could argue about, well, we've got numbers that show that But at the end of the day, they have the authority to do that. So yes, a very simple answer to your question, if this is designated as urban reserve or urban growth area, the county can give it to us and take it away at their discretion. And it doesn't take city approval to do that. Once they do have to update their comprehensive plan to do that, so that would take a long process and state process to do that too, but they do have the authority to do that, so they could absolutely take the loan.
So, go ahead, you're not done.
So are you saying that, in doing the 20-year plan, you could still do a 20-year plan and then in 2 years, maybe amend that 20-year plan? Is that what they're?
What I'm proposing to the county now is that we proceed with the 20-year plan as we had envisioned it. And then just accept the urban holding outside of there, and the county would then, since we're not actually proposing growth, we would accept that as well, but we still need to plan for more land than we have, and more land than what the county is giving us in this map. So we've already demonstrated the need is there. So it makes it easier for us to come back sooner and say, we really need to expand our boundary or our city limits now. So we're setting ourselves up well for the next step. But that environmental analysis would still be required to be done in order to accomplish that.
So you're looking for guidance from us to say, yes, we like what we see
Any input you
here.
have on this is fine.
And which I think I do like the sound of it, that it would be nice if in the policy it could be designated as Toledo's urban reserve.
It's going to be,
Okay.
but
And
as
then,
Jamie said, they can change it,
yeah,
but not
yeah.
that they're really going to.
But we just want to make it as clear as we can that that's the way we'd like to have it. And then the purple that does not have the hash marks on the north side of Plamondon.
That's these.
Yes.
Okay.
I guess I'm not following it. Can we tell the county we'd like that included? And
That's what planning commission has suggested, to include that and to not mess with the stuff on the south side of Plamondon. I got clear guidance from planning commission on that. The pink one's up top. I didn't get clear guidance from planning commission on that.
so, but back to the purple, so right now the purple is definitely what we want in our urban growth area. But you're saying, can we add that and still keep this as the urban reserve? The
Yes.
south side as urban reserve, okay.
And this chunk between Toledo Tell and this part
So that,
on the other side of it.
so this chunk over, that's by Toledo, Vader and Plamondon is newly added to the city limits. That's part of the annexation.
That's a recent annexation where
Yeah.
that is
So-
already,
That's
yes.
So this
It's not
this
part of
over
the
here is new city limits.
Right.
And
this
this over here is
Cowlitz
also new
Meadows
city
and
limits.
Gilman.
Cowlitz Meadows is in already.
Okay.
But
It's these that I'm,
yeah, those weren't proposed to be in the urban growth area, and the county is also not proposing to add those into the urban reserve.
it's strange.
It's just those parcels on the south side of
Right.
London.
Yeah.
Just these down in here where you see no color,
Right,
but the hatches.
yeah.
And we purposefully did not designate those as part of our urban growth area because they were thought to have little or no interest of that, and we didn't want to impose planning and spend money on
Right.
something that people don't want, so. that was the easy
Mayor,
decision.
I'm wondering if a conversation with those people is warranted. Kind of maybe on your behalf of if there's interest or if there's not interest,
I can definitely reach out to them and see.
yeah.
And at this point, the county's allowing us to have input into this, so if there's input that we can have on behalf of people that are outside of the city limits who have, that's kind of the guidance that I'm looking for is, do we still have it kind of right? I know I brought some of these concepts to you and we've talked about them a little bit, but
Yeah, and if the county makes it an urban reserve area, then it does still sort of restrict what can happen to that.
There are
Even if
some-
it's not part of the city of Toledo, because it might become.
The county is,
I
the
understand.
urban reserve is a little bit of a holding designation. They've got planning policies and they also have some very light restrictions in their zoning code for urban reserve areas. So, I mean, it says you can't do subdivisions and things like that in the urban reserve areas. So the concept of that is that we know this is gonna be in the city of Toledo. We don't want it to get parcelized into small little chunks that may or may not be consistent with our long-term plan. So that urban reserve or is a little bit of a holding designation for those properties. But for day-to-day living, where they're looking at getting building permits and maintaining their wells and septics, it won't have an impact on that.
Yeah, could you cover these two again, the lavender and the green non-hatch?
Actually, I have the map up for that lavender not hatched is almost entirely stream buffer. Like that point where it comes to the point, that entire lot is stream buffer. The large chunk. There's a little thin one with a house on it, and then the big
Is
chunk
this
next
the
to
one
it,
he's talking about?
the
These here?
unhatched.
I don't think you're talking about the same ones, Counselor. She's talking about these right down here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought she was talking about
No,
she's talking about the.
she's talking about the ones that planning, the five that planning commission
Okay,
had said we
gotcha.
should request those.
Sorry about that.
So what did you say about those?
Those we can ask the county to have those in, like I already mentioned to them that planning commission was interested in, they've kind of already said sure. So it was an easy ask on that one. If we're gonna propose significant changes, then they might push back some, but I don't know where that line is, so we're kind of free to ask for whatever we want.
And this one?
Those, I do not know, we didn't. Oh, those weren't ever proposed to be in, they look like they're colored, but that's actually just somebody mowing.
Okay.
I have colors that are distinct enough from mowed field.
I have a question then on the section you did not get clear from planning commission.
Yes,
Was the reasoning for having that because we need that extra area to grow into, or, then the county hasn't
right,
hash marked it.
right now, our numbers are about 100 acres out of balance, so we have, if we were to get everything in this map that we've painted, then we would have about 100 acres too much, but when you're talking, I guess it was more like around 80 acres, it wasn't quite 100. So we're serving a little bit more than our future population projection. So
Is that about 80 acres?
those are about 20-acre parcels, so it's close.
And those are owned by somebody who wants to develop, so.
Those are the ones out there in the.
Those are max, no,
Oh.
the ones she's talking about is whatever color that is, like.
Yeah, for.
Without hash marks?
That's all max,
Yeah, so
max Halbert land.
but that's why I'm getting input from as many as I can before I take our final wish list back to the county. So that's why I'm stopping here to get this kind of input. So if there are areas that you see that aren't on the map that you maybe should be, then.
Well, the violet part, I'm not up on the north side of 505, those aren't very interesting because those are all stream setbacks. But this other area that's not hatched. We know we have a developer that wants to develop, so we would like to support that because that developer doesn't have to pay for the
That's
infrastructure that's.
This part?
Yes,
Mhm.
that's how we're gonna get the
Okay.
infrastructure paid for to get out there.
If people are willing and able to build infrastructure, then those seem like good candidates to be on the list, that's for sure.
Another little isolated thing is where the intersection with Vader Highway and Lamondon, Callis Meadows, and perhaps Droma. There's that triangle.
Yeah, that one that's inside Toledo, Vader, Plumondon, and
Yeah, it's,
probably Plumondon at the elbow, is it?
That's inside the city right now.
Yeah, so that, all of that is inside the city limits.
okay,
The
because it's for
orange
sale
line,
right now.
this orange line on the map is your new city limits line.
Oh, okay.
And that's effective
Oh, okay.
just recently.
So it goes ching,
We
ching,
get
ching
maps.
up around the phone company.
Yep, the phone company is now in the city limits, all of these parcels.
So this orange also?
That orange also is in city limits.
I would love to.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think
To
it was.
ask the residents, yeah.
okay.
Last I had heard on those was.
Oh, yes, I see,
Water
I see.
for-
Yeah.
Why don't
That's
we
the
take a
watershed,
road
isn't
down
it?
to
I
that
thought there
big
was-
ordinance?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tom and I drive around
Yeah.
constantly looking at these things.
But it does sound like they, like if we could try to get them to incorporate natural properties out there, and on the backside.
Okay. And the concept of urban reserve versus designating, is it,
I think I'm all right with the urban reserve idea.
Okay.
Save some money for now.
And that's what the county will.
To put a
well,
thumbprint.
yeah, like I said, the county really holds all the cards because it's their decision to make. The only thing we can do is try to put
Plead our case.
Yeah.
at better cases and plead our case, and we'll spend time and resources doing that. But if this is an acceptable solution, there's no reason to put forward that effort, right?
Mhm.
We'll just agree and
I think the sunhatch mark, but I bet we spoke of, I'd like to see.
Yeah, yeah,
like to see
we all,
the
we all
property,
agree on
all
that,
property.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to.
And then those 5 that planning commission suggested.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
And then leaving those ones on the south side of Lamont in, even though we weren't planning on those before.
If those need to go away to get that, I would,
Swap them.
that'd be
Yeah.
fine.
Well, so far the count, I mean, for the urban reserve areas, there's not the statewide required accounting. It's kind of a more broad brush stroke. And we can still plan for it. I mean, if we want to have our own comprehensive plan, it'll have absolutely no regulatory impact other than be an adopted document of the city. But that might kind of help to set us up in the future. So maybe we go forward and adopt the comp plan designations and zoning for those areas, even though outside city limits, they don't have any impact. So, I was thinking that was a good way to proceed with planning commission. And at this point, since we don't have to do the environmental analysis, just painting them a color just kind of shows a wish list.
Exactly, yeah.
And we'll come back with policy language in the comp plan that about that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That road field would make a good baseball field.
No.
Yeah. I haven't been out there. Is it nice?
Which one?
Talk about the interlocal.
Yes.
That is a baseball
No.
field. Oh.
Right there,
Oh, that's. Okay.
that's a mowed field, I think that's not part of the plan.
Yeah.
How much are we looking at for the environmental planning analysis and any other reports that need to be done for it to go into the UDA?
Right now.
So
Right now,
the
there's
additional
3 parcels
for the urban growth areas was probably in the neighborhood of
South
about
side of-
60,000 to do the environmental
For
analysis.
sale.
At the level it's required.
Is this?
Without that, with the urban
This-
holding,
this is one that goes out
drops
to
almost
exit.
zero. We'll still do a little bit of utility planning to help out with our water and sewer.
Okay.
Utility.
You go
plans.
up the hill?
This is all part of a grant that's funded by the state
Yes.
and the
See, I
city,
know how to
it's
get there,
$100,000 to do the
but
study.
when I
and
look
that's
on a map, I go.
not quite gonna be enough,
Is
but
that right?
this makes it a lot closer to that.
You said 60 to 80 before, so,
Yeah.
so we're.
60 to 80 for that additional analysis, but the total cost for the project is likely to come in closer to the 100,000 now that we've made
Yeah,
this
so
decision.
that-
So I can finalize those.
I think she was talking about potential things to look for grants, so I think it's like 60 to 80.
So the good news about that is being in our urban growth area and having the city, if we adopt a comp plan for that, we can go out and seek grant monies to do that analysis incrementally. Or we could rely on people who are interested in developing in that area to pay for it instead of paying it. So it's an area then that becomes
Oh,
designated,
that's
but not
the highway
committed.
that goes out.
Yeah,
and
if it's already paid for, it makes it more attractive for developers,
It's true.
that they're not gonna have to fork out the money for that.
I
All
hope
right,
that
so
you
we'll
can see
move on
that
to the
this is-
ILA.
So the reason I wanted to have these in the order that I had them is because this conversation then, given that that's gonna be an urban reserve area likely, it makes the decision about the ILA, in my mind, a lot easier. This interlocal agreement is different from the other ones you talked about tonight. This one is one where the county allows cities to do planning and permitting work within their urban growth areas.
Oh.
So if we look at the map, the area that's outside of city limits, outside the orange line, but painted, is our urban growth area. There aren't very many parcels left that are in that case. This interlocal agreement means a lot to the city, in my opinion, if we're talking about a huge urban growth boundary expansion. The fact that we're not going to be talking about that, this interlocal agreement that gives us authority to review and consider permitting work in our urban growth area impacts such a small number of properties. I don't believe that it's worth continuing pursuit at this time. Council had said, yes, we think it's interesting. At the last couple of times I brought this back to you, and at that time we were planning on a big, so I wanted to bring this back. The county has conveniently given us a new draft just within the last 3 or 4 weeks. So if we were going to continue, we haven't really lost track of it or anything like that. We just kind of taken a little pause while, and the county's also told us, hey, we're really doing this for Centralia and Chehalis, where if other cities want to tag along, we're fine with it, but we're not going to spend a lot of time and effort chasing down changes that you're requesting us to make. In politer words than that.
Doug, do you think if we postpone that it might not be on the table in the future?
I think that they will, there are many reasons to do ILAs. I think if we postpone, it's going to be harder to get the county to initiate the process for Toledo. And I base that off of my reaction, their reaction to our comments. We provided city attorney comments. City attorney made some great comments and gave them all back to them, and they looked at them and they said, well, yeah, but nobody else has a hard time with these, so
yeah, we're
not. They weren't really interested in doing an ILA for Toledo. With the cooperation we're giving them on the comp plan, I think we can tee it up so that we could do a separate ILA with them that's similar in nature to this one, and that might make it easier once they finally get this adopted. It would also be one less thorn in their side, because we do have concerns about the ILA. So if we dropped out of the process now and just let them know, we don't see this as something we need to do right now, it would make it a little bit easier on them, and that may buy us some cooperation in the future if we decide to pick it up.
Yeah, Merce was really adamant about not moving forward with it.
It's kind of a long answer, but there's no real way to tell.
And if we decided to pick it up, we'd have like our attorney come up with their own.
Probably just start with the one that they adopt as, they will proceed forward and adopt this for the other jurisdictions. They need to. Those jurisdictions have been doing this type of thing for a very long time. And at least one of those had expired once, and I think they did an emergency renewal of it, even though it's decades old, just to keep it alive. So this will go into effect. So I think we could start with this, or we could try proposing one of our own that our own attorney crafts and draws up.
But your recommendation at the moment is that we don't need it because
we don't have a UGA.
Kind of going along with everything else, if it's not needed right now, and it's not going to be something that we need to spend effort and money on, let's wait until we do.
Yeah.
That's my recommendation. I still think it's a great tool at the point when you have a lot of land to plan for, but kind of given where we are and given the county's decisions and suggestions, I think it's probably good that we just abandon this for now, but it's my opinion to fuel the discussion, that's all.
Are we all okay with that?
Do we need a vote or just, yeah?
There was never a formal vote to do anything on this, so I guess I just need council direction to
it sounds
get
like
that direction to stop.
Yeah.
We'll stop working on it. I'll let the county know that we're gonna pull out for now. We're interested later.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Todd.
All right, so we'll move into public input. Is there any public input tonight? Yes.
A couple of things. One, as you probably realize from the new boundaries, we now own Toledo Vader Road from Plymouth into town. And number two, we have our public works department really consists of two guys that are trained in doing weed eating and handling the sewer and water treatment plants and the water. eventually you're going to have to come to terms with who's going to schedule maintenance for the roads when they need maintenance.
Mhm.
And you're gonna need to think about someone who actually has some experience in road building and things like that. From my standpoint, it would seem to me that when Jolma does its construction phase, that part of our condition of approval would be that they complete the remainder of the Toledo Vader Road that Callis Meadows is going to do, so that we have a clean slate once they're finished there. But eventually, things that we would normally have a public works director for there, that person doesn't exist. And I think I brought this up before, is just something to think about, whether we put a separate section in the budget for road maintenance and start throwing pennies and dimes into it while we can.
Yeah.
Not everything's gonna be accessible via grant, although I tip my hat to you. Every once in a while, you're gonna have to phone me up, but when we talk about impact fees and things like that, we're gonna wanna have money contributed to those traffic facilities so that we have money available.
Yeah, and I think I had discussed that as well when it was the final steps of the annexation and we had to bring in that portion of the highway. It was, you know, we knew that that was gonna be something that we really needed to focus on and put money aside for, because that is gonna be ours to take care of going forward.
That's all.
Anybody have anything else? Yes.
I was wondering, I was
Oh, and can you state your name?
Ron Smith,
Okay, thank you.
and I don't live inside the city, but. I was told by the police officer, Dwayne, last winter that the council was sending out letters to people that needed to clean their places up. And my question is, where is that, if you did? Where is that at now? And how are you getting to force them to clean their places up? Cause there's a hell of a lot of them in town.
So we have already started issuing the citation, or the warning letters went out. And actually we've seen quite a few people that have already started cleaning up their properties. I know the one right up here across from the funeral home, they've actually started working on theirs even, which is great. We've had quite a few of them that have also come in and said, hey, you know, we've done, so, you know, we're working on it. We're trying to work with some of them, giving them resources to reach out to people, but they do know that they will be receiving monetary fines that will be starting. I do believe we've got one in town already that's already receiving fines.
We have 3 that I've issued a letter. If it's not done by Friday, they're gonna start getting a fine, $100 a day. The girls and I are going to a conference this week, but when we get back, we're gonna be looking for a company that will come in and actually clean up those properties. I think it's called abatement, and we will turn around and fine the resident that amount, and if it's not paid, then we'll just put a lien on the house. Cause these are people that they've got big messes, and it's, you know, the ones that really just aren't doing anything. There's a couple of them here that we're aware of. So we're following all the steps and sending out.
And we keep passing ordinances to support that.
Yeah, and some of the ordinances that we just passed today will allow us to make those processes a lot easier.
Yep.
I'm not a patient person, so, I don't see any of the places getting cleaned up very fast.
Yeah,
And that one that you mentioned,
yeah.
I wouldn't hire them do anything for me because, they're not moving.
Yeah, and we understand that, and the problem was the ordinances were so old. We weren't able to ticket them through Spillman, because before Toledo was just doing the handwritten tickets. So we had to get all the ordinances updated, and there was a couple hoops to jump through. But there's another, you know, we can find them through the city. And then in working on codifying everything, we found that there's an abatement process where we can basically just go in and, you know, follow, you know, check all these boxes and jump through all these hoops that we have to do legally, and then we just come in and clean it ourselves. you know, and then we just turn around, bill them. So
I think you're gonna be doing a lot of that when you.
I hope not, but I know that there's probably 2 or 3 houses that, yeah, it might come down to that. So we will be calling, like I said, next week when we get back to find an actual company to come out with us a quote, and we'll move forward.
So do we have to pay for it
Absolutely.
first then and then bill them?
Yes.
Do we have the money for that?
Okay, anything else? I was entertaining a motion, oh, no executive session tonight. And then I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Oh, real quick, yes, thank you.
And
I
state your
don't,
names.
and I don't live within city limits either. I wanted to let you know that I'm working on a grant that is not for the city. It is for the city, but not through the city. It will be through, the South Louis County Chamber. And in 2016, we received an EPA grant, called Cool and Connected to do with where they brought in experts to different towns, and we were one of 4 places in the United States that received that grant, and they sent in experts. And it had to do with our gig community and how to move forward. And after we had that is where I got the grant for $50,000 to fix up the Eagle and get the city signs put up and the fencing and the interpretive signs around the tower, the water tower, and all kinds of other things came out of that. So there is another one through the EPA, pretty much the same, except it is called Recreation Economy for Rural Communities. And that is a tourism, they'll bring in experts to help us develop tourism plans and revitalization of Main Street, and how to proceed and do all those things. So you bring in your community people, so we'd have somebody from the city and planning commission and parks and public works and other things and nonprofits, and all of us get together and try to come up with a reasonable thing. And from that, they create a plan, pretty much a master plan for those 2 things. Wouldn't be for, you know, your water sewer infrastructure or UGA or any of that, as far as I know. So I just wanted to let you know that was coming up, and already reached out as they requested to Senator Murray's office and to Representative Marie Vincent Perez. So they will be sending us a letter of support to be added to that permit. Okay. So just let you know.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hopefully we get some tourism and development for some of the land that we have, it's waterfront and things like that. So,
Yeah. Revitalizing Main Street. Yeah.
I need a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Moved by Eric, seconded by Jamie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Aye.